Today's guest is Celeste Cleary, and I am so excited and grateful for your time today, Celeste. I love everything that you're doing with your new business, Flourishing Wellness. I love your story. I feel super lucky that I'm one of the privileged people who has had the opportunity to listen to your story in a couple of different forums. And I love everything that you're about and what you're delivering for the people of Central Queensland. And I'm really looking forward to our podcast audience being able to get to know you a little bit better and learn about the amazing work that you're doing across Central Queensland. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, that's my pleasure, Nyree, and thanks for the wrap. And if I wander off track, as I am want to do at times when I get I get a rattle up, just direct me back to what it is specifically that you'd like me to share.
All good.
Be
It's
guided.
one of my favorite things of this podcast is, going off on different little rabbit holes and, learning those things that you really can't prepare for all the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I am happy, ready, and willing to hear absolutely everything you've got to share. But before we dive too far into it, I'm very keen to know if you could be an expert in absolutely anything at all in the world, what would it be and why?
Expert in anything in the whole wide. I've been asked this before, and and I'm still caught on the. Yeah, I'm really at a loss. Even thinking about it in the past, I guess I'd love to be a real expert in chunking down big things into little steps.
hmm
Think,
Very helpful.
yeah, like it's something that I'm passionate about as a coach, and there's always more to learn. There's always different approaches. Every client I work with, I learn from, and so I don't know how I could condense it into being an expert, because I feel like there's no such thing as being an expert. I'm
Mhm.
just constantly learning and then sharing the bits that I pick up from the people I work with and the little synergies that we create together.
No, I love that, and that's I love the growth mindset. We don't finish learning when we finish school or finish
Mm.
TAFE or university. Learning is for life. Yeah, so I mean, you can be a specialist and working towards an expert, but yeah, that's a great point.
Because I think the reason I'm wired that way is that in nursing, I see how we are very much geared towards going towards a specialty. You want to be really proficient at something. And because it is such a complex area in health, in our pursuit of that, we can kind of end up in a bit of a silo. And then, the people we work with, they're not silos. We're not looking
Mhm.
after just their heart or just their lungs or just their mind. It's all connected. And so I love being a generalist because I'm looking at the whole person and helping them, how it all fits together. I
Mm.
think that's possibly why in my mind I'm resisting that
Yeah.
concept of the expert.
No, fair enough. And you make a very good point. Of course, we don't want our nurses, which of course you formerly were, still are a nurse, just not
Yeah.
practicing as a nurse.
Yes.
We don't want a nurse to come into our room and just take care of our heart. We want them to look after us holistically. And it's
Mm.
such an amazing profession. And I'm certainly very thankful for all of the nurses out there. Your career as a nurse, I'm lucky enough to have heard your story, but of course, my podcast guests are now getting the opportunity. So tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are today, and what that's looked like from nursing into coaching, and what were those key moments along the way that really guided your path to this current chapter of your life, essentially, like key people, key moments. What does that look like?
Yeah, I guess when I went into nursing, it was from a desire to help people. And, I come from, there's a bit of a line of nurses in the family on both sides. And I kind of fenced around it, resisted it, went and did a lot of different things before I decided, now really it's sort of magnetizing me that way. I better go have a crack. And, when I was a baby nurse, we learned all these great things like health promotion and how to be healthy and use our diet and movement and good sleep and all those things that are the pillars of good health. And yet then I'll go work in a system that's really focused on fixing what's broken. And in 30 years, there seems to be more and more of what's broken that's taking our focus. And there's still a lot of people out there having a really good go at the health promotion and trying to empower people to be well so that they don't end up falling off the cliff and being
Mm.
sick. But yeah, particularly with the chronic disease. But it's been a long, hard haul, and there's a lot of things that are conspiring against individuals and us as a nation to combat that. So I guess after 30 years of it, I just decided, you know what, I really want to get back to empowering people before they end up having the heart attack, the stroke, whatever. When, I did my first 10 years of nursing in Mount Isa, and I saw back then a lot of the grey nomads who got stuck there because they headed off on this great trip and they're like 6 weeks into it. And then often it was the man in the partnership that has had a massive heart attack or another event. And they've been flown into Mount Isa, and then it's the partner who's trying to support their mate that's been flown to Brisbane or Townsville, and they're critically unwell, but then they've got to restart this van and like all these things that they're having to juggle. And that was happening 30 years ago, and it's still happening now.
Mm.
So I feel like, how can we optimize our health so that we get to enjoy those things that we work so hard for all our life? Look forward to taking that time, and then it's sort of ripped away from us, I guess.
No, completely appreciate that, and unfortunately see a little bit too much of it. Not as much as yourself, of course, working in that profession and, seeing it day in, day out for 30 years. One of the things I really appreciate you talking about when I have seen you speak publicly is about the compassion fatigue and, your focus on caring for those who care for others. Uh,
Mm.
did you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I first went into coaching, I was working with individuals, and I resisted speaking in front of a group of people. I didn't like being in the spotlight, and so I had to overcome that to speak to groups and to present workshops so I could have more impact, and help more people. And a lot of people respond better in a group. They relate to that better, and they learn from each other in a group environment. So I started working with colleagues of mine who, as I had experienced myself, compassion fatigue. And this is a phenomena where we are very often it's women, but it doesn't just happen to women, but we're in either a caring profession or we are juggling that focus on others and caring for other people. We may be in the sandwich generation where we have young children and we have aging parents who may need assistance, and we may look after all of our team at work. So we're always focused on needs of everyone else, and we're giving and giving, and all this energy is going out to everyone else, and we're not seeing how we can prioritize our own energy because we can't keep giving from an empty cup, and I think we're hearing more and more of this in media and so forth, but it's that energy balance. Compassion fatigue through to compassion satisfaction is a bit of a continuum. When we have awareness, we can tune in and see, like, where am I leaking energy out? Where are the things that I need to be setting a boundary for myself so that I can say yes to the things that are aligned? And I'm not ending up suddenly 5 years has evaporated and I've got a kid in year 12 and I'm missing all their special, occasions and those moments, because it does happen really fast. And we want to be present for that. So how can we make that happen? So a big part of it is our awareness and being able to tune in and step off that rat wheel so that we can just take a bit of a, check the pressure and see what can I tweak? What do I need to do? Where is my energy going? And be intentional about it.
Absolutely. And
And
I
so
think
the
a
more
lot of
I've worked with nurses, then I've seen that in other professions as well,
mm,
particularly like the legal profession. That's a big one, especially with all of the family law issues and that they confront, and domestic violence and those kind of issues.
absolutely. And, I think, like, with awareness, it brings us so much choice,
Yes.
because we can, go through life and, keep pretty much turning the hamster wheel to a
Yeah.
degree. But when we're aware of something, that we
Mm.
can make a choice then to make a change. Yeah,
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
that's
Awareness
fantastic work.
is key.
So what
Make
was
life
that?
happen for us rather
Yes.
than to us.
Yeah, that's it, that's it. Yeah. We need to take the reins, hey?
Mm-mm.
So what was that pivotal moment that led you on this path of coaching? 30 years in nursing, that's a huge career. Was there a key moment there that happened along the way? Of course, you've shared, you wanted to get back into that preventative space, of course. Like,
Yes.
was there a definitive event where you went, you know what? That's it. I'm taking this plunge. I'm doing this now.
Yeah, I would say it was one single moment, Nyree, but it's certainly, there was a few. Now, I think if I back up about 10 years, and I was working in Billawheeler and I was on night shift with a mate of mine who's a midwife, and she brought this really good cookbook in, as you do, you bring your cookbooks in to share with one another. Actually, yeah, so anyway, I'm looking at these recipes. These are awesome. And so she said, "Well, I'm going to Rocky tomorrow. I'll get you a copy." Now, that was a book that was around ketogenic diet, around therapeutic carbohydrate restriction, and its awesome impact for particularly pre-diabetes and people who are suffering diabetes.
Mhm.
And that set me on a bit of a path. Like initially, it was just these really great recipes, and I started trying them and really liked them. But then I started looking for more information, finding out more, reading studies, and seeing that, yeah, this is a thing, and how much it influences the metabolic disease. So we don't see the diabetes until people have had actually a lot of what we call insulin resistance for a long time. Could be 20 years, but they have high blood pressure. They might have brain fog. They might have gout. They could have, like a bit of high cholesterol and so forth. All these things that are mounting up and leading to diabetes eventually. But these are what we call metabolic disease. And so to see that we can actually reverse that really quite quickly with the right diet. So yes. Then I started I'm looking after newly diagnosed diabetics in ICU, and I'm seeing the old ways of teaching these people to manage their diabetes. And it just caused this real disconnect for me. It was like a values misalignment, I guess, because what I knew I wasn't able to share because it was not approved. It was not part of our policies and guidelines. And I had to be respectful of that. And I didn't want to be confusing my patients anyway. But I felt like I've got to find another way to help people, because I know of like a 90-year-old diabetic and others that are well in their 60s and 70s, type 1 diabetics that they've got all their arms and legs. They're perfectly healthy, living to a ripe old age. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be like, this is it. This is going to be your lot. You're going to have your kidneys pack up on you before you're 50. You're going to have, the bad eye health and all the rest of it. So that sort of was leading me on that path. And then I did a course that was to help me in a leadership role. It was an authentic leadership coaching course over a couple of months. And it didn't lead me where I thought it was going to lead me. And that was ultimately into a leadership role in the unit I was working in. It was like, what do I stand for? What am I about? What is really important? And where do I want to go? And it just opened up all these other possibilities outside of that little narrow band that I had put myself in. Really was sort of put myself in a box. And I thought, you know what? There's got to be another way, and I'm going to start looking for it. So within that 2 months, I discovered health and wellness coaching, and I'd made the decision to do that. And then within a couple of months, I decided that to change, I really needed to step out of the box. And so I made a fairly big leap to go to the casual nursing pool, and leaving a permanent role to go stick my toe in the water, to have a go and see where it would lead me, knowing that there'd be other possibilities out there. I wasn't completely cutting the lifeline, so that's sort of how it went. So it's been a bit of a ride since then, and 3 years ago, going on 4.
Wow. And just to think the impact that you've had on the people that you've met with already, either through one-on-one or in a
Yeah,
group setting, that collective impact across the region is
yeah.
huge, I can imagine.
I guess. Well, I mean, I think sometimes it's hard to know just what the impact is, but I know what it is for the clients that I work with. And, just even doing wellness talks for one particular organization, they gave me the feedback that, when they are going home at the end of that day, they're not, there's a bit less of the banter and a little bit more talk about like their sleep habits or,
Mhm.
or they're ribbing each other at the pre-start about what are you drinking that, like Red Bull for,
Yeah.
You're going to get dehydrated. Go and have a drink of water. And, so it's really good to hear that, some things are sticking and there's that peer support. And it also seems to contribute to connection within the team
Mhm.
at some level as well, because it's a topic that's outside of the day-to-day runnings of work.
Absolutely agree. So how do you think that being in the Rocky region or in Central Queensland in general has shaped your journey, with the nursing that you've done from Isa to Billawheeler and,
Yeah.
you're of course in the Central Queensland area. How's this location shaped that journey?
That's a really good question. I think in a number of ways. I've always worked in the regions, Woomba. Lived in Canada for a while as well, and it was in a town of about 20,000
Mhm.
people. And again, it was doing the ambulance runs to the city for people the same as I would do in Toowoomba or Mendbilo. And I think I really get what it's like to be in a regional area where you have to be resourceful. I and I think that that's a really great quality. I think, and the resilience that people have in the regions, and how we just sort of get on with it. And it really, really resonates with me. And I think it's universal when
Mm.
you're in a regional rural area. And the insight that I have to what it takes for people to look after their health and well-being, it's a real commitment when you don't have, a regular doctor. A lot of people, they're just sort of making do with, like, as long as they've got a clinic that you can send results to, well, at least they're in one place. So it's very hard to have continuity of care. And that's becoming more of an issue, even like in a town the size of Rocky. It's not
Mm.
just the Blackwaters, the Billawheelers, the other areas, even Longreach. It's in the bigger cities as well. So I'm not sure. I might have wandered off topic there. Did I?
No, no, all good. It's good. Yes. No, the being in Central Queensland or regional Queensland is, you can't explain it until you've experienced it. And this is off topic from me, but I was in Brisbane recently, uh, at it was a conference type event, and
Mm,
most of the people were there are there from the southeast corner, so Sunny
mm,
Coast, Brizzy, Gold Coast, and the people I was sitting around, I got to know them and, we were having conversations. We're all there for a similar purpose. And just, I found myself trying to explain something about, the challenges with regional Queensland. And I caught myself just almost not giving up, but I kind of went, have you ever lived in regional Queensland? Like I said this to two people. Have you ever lived in regional Queensland? And both of them said, no. And I said, okay, I don't mean any disrespect, but you don't understand and you
mm,
can't
mm.
understand what it's
Yes.
like.
Yes.
So, and again, no disrespect at all. Absolutely
No.
valued and loved their perspective. Having lived in the southeast corner myself, I absolutely can put myself in their shoes. They just couldn't put themselves in our
Yes.
shoes. So,
Yes. Yeah.
but then that's off topic. See, I'm off topic too, and you were not off topic.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective, hey,
Yes.
and experiences and what
Yes.
this region is quite special to me, which of course is why I love this podcast and interviewing the people from this region.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
the challenges aren't isolated to Rocky. They're all through regional Queensland. To a degree,
Yes.
they may have them in southeast Queensland, but
Mm.
not as much as us, and we absolutely do need to be self-reliant and,
Yes.
resilient.
Yes, yeah, and support each other, think that
Absolutely.
that sense of community really does we need that. It's a big part of our it's a big strength, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. Thinking about, your perspective on life in general, big question here. Has there been any like significant moment, like something that you're extremely proud of, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, something that's been like a huge challenge that you've overcome? But, you know, from either end of the spectrum, has there been one thing that comes to mind that has changed your perspective completely in the way that you approach life, work, business, community?
Yeah. I think, well, there's a couple I could go with. One thing I've really noticed, and it's a concept that came up in that coaching course that I did 4 years ago, and it's about resistance. And I didn't really understand the concept until I did that course, but it shows up in the way we tend to fence around things or not, like, I mean, one of my workshops is about tough conversations and how we can equip ourselves to have them. And so that's an example of something we might avoid. For me, public speaking, even to be on a Zoom call like this, absolutely palpitations, dry mouth, to
Mm,
record a live for a little tiny Facebook group scared the absolute bejesus out of me. I'd do 15 takes on my phone and, I'd be fencing around it for 2 hours before I could actually do the thing. So when you push through that resistance, it's like the harder you have to push, the bigger the rewards on the other side. It's just, I think, and I think, well, maybe we can all relate to this when we stop and think about it. When you've done the really hard thing, how good did you feel? And what opened up for you? What opportunities then came out of that? So for me, pushing through that discomfort has led me to here.
mm,
And, I'm speaking at events and sharing the work I do and helping more people because I was able to do that. And I wouldn't say I'm 100% comfortable, and I don't think my heart rate's at baseline by any means at the moment, but, it's that, what is that hard thing that you're avoiding? Because the chances are that it's something you are destined to do. Until you have a go, you'll never know.
mm.
And what would it take to, yeah, have a crack, to push through that? And who could help? Because we don't have to do it on our own.
No, that's right. And I really love your focus on, professional development and learning and attending the courses and of
Yeah.
course delivering workshops yourself. Yeah, as mentioned earlier, the impact to many people that you've got the opportunity to talk to. And I guess from my perspective, taking that leap for you out of permanent, stable nursing position into a casual pool to go and pursue your own passion and
Mm.
the impact that you're having on the people that you serve, that's a significant moment and, one that you have to work at every day.
Yeah.
Again, this Zoom call alone, it's not easy for you. It's not easy for many of my guests, but they all push through it because they know exactly what you just said. It's on the other side of doing that hard thing is amazing growth.
Yes. And for anyone who's listening, to know that maybe there's a little grain of inspiration for you
Mhm.
to explore that, like get curious and have fun, maybe even.
Yeah. So you've already given a whole heap of advice, not in an amazing way. Absolutely love it. But now I'm going to ask you for more. So if you think about the people who are coming along after us, the young adults, the late teens, the people that are finding their feet in the world, what advice would you give them? What sort of legacy would you like to leave behind that could provide guidance and advice to the next generation?
I think there's a couple of things. One is one is that we all struggle. It's the universal human condition that we struggle. And so there is no, my struggle's bigger than your struggle. your loss is bigger than my loss. It's all our thing. Just because someone else is dealing with something that looks like way bigger or worse or whatever than what you're dealing with, it doesn't take away from the battle that you're having. And so be compassionate to yourself, and it's that, like, well, what's one little thing I could do? Like, maybe this could be my strength, because there's a lot of talk about resilience and how we build resilience. And, I mean, there's even a few judgment things that get bandied around about, youth today, since we're talking about young people. And like, I see so many young people out there having a red hot go, and they're
Mhm.
inspiring me. So I think that the future's in good hands. And I think that there are some struggles that they're having, that this generation are dealing with, that I never had to manage when I was a kid or a young
Mm.
person. So hats off. And if you're having a struggle, like, who could help? And what's one little step that you could take towards chunking that down? And how is it going to build your resources to then, maybe there'll be something bigger then that you can tackle. Like, for me, it was getting on a Zoom call and actually turning the camera on. That was the little thing. And it was a big thing then, but it's led to other things beyond that. So you just don't know what you're capable of. You don't till you have a go, but just, it's not about the big thing. It's about the little steps
Mm.
to chunk it down. And that's something that people like me can help with.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. No, that is great advice. Thank you. And I heard a quote recently, or I read a quote, can't remember whether I heard it or read it, but it was around confidence and resilience. And I really loved it. It said, confidence is doing the thing that makes you uncomfortable over and over and over again until you're just comfortable with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. But no, thank you so much for joining my podcast today. I'm super appreciative of your time. And I really look forward to sharing your story, your advice, and your perspective with a broader audience. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, Nyree. Thank you for having me.